Welcome to the second section of this course, Automating Database Migrations. In this section, we are going to understand what is database migration. Then we are going to have an introduction to Flyway. After that, how to run migrations on integration tests, how to run migrations on CI, and finally, change the database and run the full pipeline again. Here we are at the first video of this section, Understanding Database Migration. In this video, we are going to take a look at what is database migration and why database migration is important towards continuous delivery. Let's take a use case for explaining what is database migration. Let's suppose that Lisa is working on a change in the version 1 of the code. This code has a class called user, and the user has two attributes. This class is a mapping from a table in the database. Lisa uses a local database to develop the change. At the same time, John is working on a change to the class user. He added a new attribute called email. He had to update his local database to be sure that the email attribute is persisted in the table user. Let's suppose that John finished his change and pushed it to the version control. The problem now is how Lisa will update her local database once he gets the latest changes from John. There are some options. John could create an SQL script to change the database and keep it in the version control, and then notify Lisa that she needs to update her local database with this script. Let's suppose that now Jenkins got the latest changes from John, but how Jenkins will update the database? John could manually apply the patch to the database, but then he will need to do it again on production environment. As soon as we have more than one database, things started to get out of sync, and it can mess the features of the product. For these kind of issues, where we have different databases and we need to keep tracking of the version that we are using that is compatible with the product or with the application, there is the concept of database migration scripts, which give you the control of the version of the database and involvement across the time by allowing you to recreate a database from scratch and make it clear what the state it is in. At the same scenario with the database migration scripts, we could have 3 developers with their own local database and running 3 different versions of the database. This is possible because they know exactly what is the version of the database that they are using. Under the hood, this is implemented with a table in the database. Let's suppose that we have version 2, version 4, and version 3. Developers could use different versions to test their local software. In the version control, we could push all of the 4 versions and decide which version of the database we want to use, which is exactly what's happening in the local development. Once we have all of the versions of the database available in the version control, Jenkins could also get those versions and migrate the database from the specific environments. Let's suppose that we have a database for integration tests, a database on the stage environment, and a database on production environment. In this case, we can set to Jenkins to use the latest and greatest version of the scripts. So the integration test will always run on the latest version of the database, in this case, version 4. As we are approaching production, we can also say that version 3 of the database along with the application is tested, and then this is the version that we should push next to production. And on production, we can say that the version 2 is the one that was tested and also approved by QA team. So in this workflow, we could control from Jenkins, or Jenkins could be the orchestrator to define exactly what is the version of the database and what is the version of the app that we should deploy to each environment. This concept of database migration is important towards continuous delivery because migration scripts are alongside with project code. Also, the database schema involved together with the project code. It's easier for developers or different members of the team to understand what is the version of the database which is compatible with the version of the app. Additionally, we have the versioning of the database, so we can query to exactly see what is the version that we are running in that specific environment. And more important than that, we can store migration in the version control, so we can track changes across the time.